really trying to break things down to their core essence. And so, for instance, the first thing we're doing is imitation, because that's such a core skill. And so, we're really going to teach a couple modules that go over the basics of all types of imitation. Your gross motor, the clap hands, object imitation, gestural, verbal. So once we build a couple of those fundamentals, each module will end talking about our teaching cycle. So what we're trying to create is that you don't have to just sit across from your kid in this boring environment and hold up flashcards all day. We really want a naturalistic play, and we're teaching you step by step different tools that you can use to keep your kids engaged throughout each cycle. So we'll do imitation, and then we'll start to talk about the teaching cycle, start to show some videos so you can see the examples of good therapy. And then you get to do the same by taking your own videos and us helping you critique. We'll do the same thing for other modules in the future when it comes to direction following and all the different types of directions, or just receptive, for a child to understand their nouns and their verbs and their environment. We will have modules, and it will always go back to how to in the teaching platform so parents can get the skills, but also see good things to emulate and practice.
Say more about the teaching cycle. What does that look like?
So the teaching cycle is just built to capture the energy and motivation of a child. And so before you ask a kid to come sit down, maybe we play with them for a little bit exactly where they are. We do some tickles, we have a good time. Make sure the kid is ready to enjoy the experience with another person. We'll walk them over, we'll sit in a chair, we'll get eye level, and instead of doing some boring old tack cards, we'll start to sing. We'll sing about old MacDonald. We'll do little tickle games. We want the chair and sitting to be a fun activity and also be very short so that the child is motivated. So we'll sing, enjoy, and then maybe we'll do about 2 to 4 minutes of some type of work. It might be gross motor. Hey, look, I'm clapping my hands, follow me. And so after they do that for a couple minutes, let's take them out of the chair and let's go to an area that has some blocks on the floor. And I can talk about the red block. The child does not have to communicate, but now we get to share experiences. I can hand him a block. He could put something on. I can comment about the color. If you're talking communicate, we can have a little bit of a dialogue. And now we have some constructive play. So let's say we go from that environment and we get out a little soft squishy ball and we play catch. I play little games, whether we're doing a quick thing of chase or we're just having a 5-minute dance party. It's really about getting the body in motion. And so we have where a child's sitting, we have a child on the floor playing. Now we have a child standing and using their body. And then maybe in the fourth cycle, we start talking about technology. Maybe we take an application that has some easy receptive so they can identify the difference between a chair, a pencil, and maybe their favorite milk. And we ask them a couple of questions, and we only do that for maybe 2 to 4 minutes. And after that's done, we let the child have a couple minute break. We evaluate what went well in that cycle so we could do more of, think of new ideas to do for the next cycle, and then we repeat the process. And so the cycle grows or shrinks, always contingent on the motivation of the child that you're working with.
And it's very, very different from what you see sometimes in the clinic. You have a child sit down and you say, first work, then something. And then the child really want to get up, but the child cannot get up because you make the child sit there for 15 minutes, have to finish the work first.
Yes. And without motivation, we don't learn. And I think we all know this, meaning if you really don't want to go out to an activity, there's not a lot of things that will get you to go. And so I think the same thing we need to do for our children. We first need to have them motivated. Then it's much easier to teach them the things that will benefit them.
We are choosing imitation as our first cohort training topic. Why did we land on this topic?
There are so many things that a child needs to learn early in the process, but I feel comfortable saying that almost most roads come somewhere through imitation at some point. And the reason why, if you really think what imitation is, it really just has a couple of core fundamentals. So maybe it's even the core fundamentals when combined creates this special gift that humans have. And what it is that I can observe you eating an apple. And by just you watching you eat an apple, I can learn how to imitate, realize it's food, and then know even how to eat it. And so I think for a brain, if it can learn from the environment, meaning I had to be focused to observe, and then I can replicate exactly what you're doing, I think those two complex skills put together really means the brain can learn from anything that it sees as long as it's able to focus and replicate. So it makes sense that we work on this skill so that it makes it so that you don't have to teach your child every single thing. Teaching imitation helps so that your child can learn more naturally from the environment.
And that makes me think about if a child is able to do motor imitation, imitating play, and then there's also other skills related to imitation, like imitating your peers, your friends, in a classroom setting, even later on.
So yes, in kindergarten, they say everyone line up. They don't say Johnny, stand up and line up.
That's right.
Imitation allows you to understand what's happening and adapt quickly. So I guess imitation also is an adaptability. The more you can imitate the environment, the more you can adapt to what the environment's happening towards you. And we do know that sometimes when kids have special needs, adaptability is what they struggle with. Transitions, to a preferred activity to something else that's non-preferred. When you take a left versus a right and your kid all of a sudden has a lot of behavior. So I think by teaching imitation, we're working on these crucial skills that really apply to all these other scenarios.
I can see that with the imitation skill, it is so critical for a child to be successful in a classroom. I was seeing in a classroom, kindergarten classroom, the teacher taught everyone if they need to use the bathroom, instead of say, I want to go to the bathroom, and then they just use a sign. This means I need to go to the bathroom. And then the kids pick up naturally because they see other kids do that.
Yes. And so that's what we're trying to leverage. And it's one of the easier skills for us to teach other people. And so I think it gets challenging to not know what I should teach my child. It makes it easier that imitation does not have to be done by an expert.
Mm-hmm.
There is you don't need a certification. It's just really having intent. And our job is to help build game plans so parents know specific things to try and then also gauge how they're improving and how they're teaching their kiddo.
Perfect. One more thing I think parents may want to know. So as we're launching the first cohort imitation module, we'll have 5 modules. We'll talk about why imitation is important, the developmental sequence imitation, motor play. What do parents need to have in order to actually do what we are telling them to do in a module?
So I think the first thing, if I had to say, the simplest thing is that they come with curiosity. Meaning, I think sometimes we want so much perfection, and there is no perfect way to be a parent, and there's no perfect way to be a teacher for your child. It pays to be curious. Why does my child do this? How come when I ask, I get this behavior? Puts you more of a space of not of frustration or trying to figure out what's happening, but more in the space of what can I do to motivate it in the right direction? So come with curiosity. You're going to fail. There's times where you'll try something and it won't work out, but curiosity helps you not to judge yourself in the process. The second step is to have a visual, something written down, and our modules count as that. So you kind of have some plan in place. And so I think a lot of parents, they're not quite sure, well, what should I teach my kid when it comes to imitation? I think the modules really help so that you at least have a good starter kit. By all means, there'll be things you can teach your child that are not in the modules, but because you have a starter kit, I think it's kind of like having training wheels on a bike. It helps so that you don't feel too wobbly once you start out. And so when we put those things in place, and then we have these group trainings, it allows us to do a little bit of Q&A so we can kind of problem solve as a group, and then more talk about fundamentals and just really going over simple science-backed ways that you can help your child really help so that it's not how someone feels or just anything that's not based on something that we can't prove. So those are kind of the areas that I would say would be beneficial for the cohort.
It would save parents so much time not to Google things that are not evidence-based and Google things that are other people thinking it's effective, but it's not. Michael, would you mind going through like how many people we are recruiting, how many people we are admitting this first cohort? And I can pull out the flyer and to show people how to sign up for the first cohort training.
Sure, sure. So essentially, we're going to do just a small group. We're not going to put a fixed number, but we need the group small enough so that we can have good conversations in the middle of our talks. Because we're promoting this amongst our social media, it's important that people reach out early so they can get put on our list. Our criteria are primarily parents who have kids under the age of 4. They do not need to have a diagnosis, meaning they can have autism or other disabilities or no disabilities whatsoever, but maybe they struggle somewhere in imitation or they struggle in focus that prevents them from imitation. There will be a little bit of paperwork. We make it as streamlined as possible so we understand how best we can coach both the parent and then also give them some insight on how they can help their kiddo.
So this is our flyer. And to sign up, so parents just need to email us, right?
Yes. So send us an email. So we will start the cohorts right here in early October. We will have some new things rolling out, including a new book, websites, and webinars. But this is our first give back that we want to do for the public and really want to get parents who are really motivated to help their child, but just really don't have the resources or the people to ask the right questions and get good qualified answers. So by all means, shoot us an email. We will send you the list of what's required to sign up. And then that allows you to get an official place on our list.
This is great. And I think we'll start October 3rd, the first cohort.
Yes, yes. We start here really soon.
Very good.